Hello, and welcome to Michigan and Other Mayhem, the show about Michigan, murder, mysteries, histories, and other mayhem from around the world. Your hosts are Allie
And Jen.
Okay, Jen, let's do this thing.
Hello.
Hello, Jen.
You know what I'm
Yep.
doing?
What are you doing?
I decided for Mother's Day.
Okay.
I wouldn't buy my mother something.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to make her something. So I bought a $5 creative clay kit to make jewelry.
Uh-huh. How's it going?
I've stared at the box.
Okay.
I've read the instructions. You make it and you bake it. How hard is this?
Creatively, I could say it could get real fucked up sometimes.
I'm thinking. I don't think it'll end up being jewelry. I'll make a jewelry holder.
Ooh, that's a good thing. I'm like, I always like the practical gifts. I like a practical gift.
But I'm like, I'm going to try this for $5.
That's a good idea. And, for $5, it's a good amount to try on. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, so we'll see how it goes.
Nice. I am taking my last assassin snail today back to the fish doctor so I can move some of my mystery snails over because they be fucking. So
They
Cassie's
probably
like,
don't want to. They don't want to sell you a snail,
right? These people, yeah, I'm telling you. Cassie's like, you have aphrodisiac in your water for snails. I was like, they make babies, okay, and I got to donate them to the local fish store. Jesus.
You're breeding these for them.
And I don't mean to. They can have them. I love Professor Pink. I love Barbarella. That's it.
What do you got today?
Okay. I have a serial killer currently out on parole here in Michigan. Do you want me to go first, or do you want to go first? You've got the mystery one, right? With the surprise ending.
I have the Disappearance of Bernice Gray.
Ooh, tell me about Bernice Gray.
Okay. Bernice Gray is from St. Clair Shores, and this happened in 1991.
Okay.
We like the 90s.
Yeah, I'm in the 70s for mine.
Oh.
Yeah. Even before I was born.
On December 26, 1991, Bernice, she was age 23 at the time, had dropped her daughter off at daycare around 6:30 in the morning and was never seen again. Bernice was described as a reliable employee who showed up for her shifts early than her start time. And when she didn't show up for her work shift, her work got worried and contacted her boyfriend, Robert Payne. Okay. And that's with 2 N's, Pann.
Okay.
Pan, maybe Pan.
Pan, maybe.
The employer left a message, and when Robert returned their call around 8:30 a.m., he said he believed that she had overslept at her mom's house. Okay. And her work then contacted her mother. Bernice was reported missing, and the investigation began.
Did she actually stay with her mom? Do we know if she actually stayed with her mom that day?
I don't know.
Okay.
I think so.
Okay.
There's some things to lead you to believe that because there was a fight. She had moved out.
Okay.
So there was a fight around Christmas time.
Okay.
So, but nothing in none of the MLive articles could I find that was true. And I couldn't find what happened when they contacted the mother, like what she said or anything. It just went from her work was contacting the mother, and then the articles pick up with the reporting missing.
Okay.
So she was reported missing and the investigation began. And on December 30th, her vehicle, which was a blue Pontiac, was found in Detroit abandoned. Her keys on the floor and her purse with wallet were also found in the vehicle.
Oh, shit.
When searching the car, they also found 2 bullet casings and 1 spent bullet on the front seat. No fingerprints, but there was blood splatter.
Oh, fuck.
Experts said the blood was hers and the splatter showed either a shot in the head from the side or the back.
Okay.
And that's going to be important
Okay.
later on. Is that she either got shot from the side
Okay.
or the back.
Okay.
The person of interest was, of course, her boyfriend.
Yeah.
One reason mentioned in news articles was because he owned construction equipment. So it seemed like he was a contractor.
Okay.
And so they believed, it would be easy for him to dispose of the body.
Okay.
So I gathered a timeline from all the MLive news articles I could find. And so in 1987, the two started living together.
Okay.
In 1990, she applied for housing assistance. So investigators believe she was thinking about making plans on moving out
Okay.
at that time. In 1991, she actually called the housing department and asked to be prioritized, stating her current housing situation had turned into a domestic violence situation.
Oh.
During this year, 1991, her
Yeah.
boyfriend also kicked her out of the house for a period of time. Shortly before her disappearance, she moved out of the house with her boyfriend.
Okay.
2 days before her disappearance, Robert proposed to her and she turned him down.
Good girl.
And 1 day before her disappearance, her and Robert got into a fight.
Okay.
So then, now the day of the disappearance. On this day, Robert went to the store where he purchased the engagement ring and returned it. The store told investigators that they remembered him because he had tracked mud into the store.
Okay.
And then her uncle claimed that Robert actually talked to him and Robert told him that he knew she was dead. So he made that statement.
Really?
True or not, who knows?
Okay.
Robert's alibi was that he was working on an emergency repair job at the time. He stated the repair was digging by hand a 9-foot hole. And he made a point to say by hand.
Uh-huh.
I think because of all the mud he tracked in, that
Yeah.
it would take, but he claimed it was just because it was near a sidewalk. So all this is important.
Okay.
Okay. Because when they talked, the police went to check his story out and the customer gave the story, but it was a bit different. The customer said it was a routine job. He was there in the morning and afternoon.
Uh-huh.
The job was actually to fix a 9-foot crack in a basement wall.
Okay.
Bernice was never found. But there's a little bit more to Robert. So this is
Okay.
where it's interesting. So I found on the Charlie Project website that Robert had at least a dozen things on his criminal record. Filing false police reports and an attempted murder charge.
Oh.
And this attempted murder charge was of his ex-wife. That he was convicted of and was sent to prison. When I looked it up in Otis, the offense was assault with intent to do great bodily harm, less murder. And the offense happened in 1996, which shortly after Bernice's disappearance.
Yeah.
For that, he was sentenced to 6 to 10 years. And he had a second charge of felonious driving, which he was sentenced to 1 to 2 years.
Oh, no shit.
Okay. So in 2000, while I believe still serving his sentence for the attempted murder on his ex-wife, I couldn't confirm that he was still in prison, but I'm pretty sure he was.
Okay.
Because in Otis, it says, his sentence was transferred.
Okay.
So I think he was still in prison
Okay.
for his wife, and the police decided, even with the circumstantial evidence, they were going to charge Robert with Bernice's murder.
Okay.
And it said that in one of the MLive articles that when he was charged with the murder, Robert asked, "Who snitched on me?"
Oh, no
But,
shit.
but what I thought was crazy about the situation
Yeah.
is that the state used the similarity of his attempt on his ex-wife in trial. With his ex-wife, he sat hidden in the back seat of her car and then attacked her while driving.
No.
And they said for Bernice, he hid in her car and then attacked her while she was at a stoplight.
Oh, no shit.
He was found guilty and received life for homicide, murder, first degree, premeditated, and 2 years for weapons firearm charge. So that's why when they said the blood splatter was either from the side or the back, that's why that's important, because, okay, you did this to your ex-wife. You hid. So completely possible that you were hidden in the back seat and you shot her.
Yeah. Oh, no shit.
Yeah. So he's in prison.
So he's in prison. Yeah.
But
No
it's like,
shit.
did you actually kill your girlfriend
Yeah.
or ex-girlfriend at the time? They were in a fight, who knows?
Yeah.
But and then realize you got away with it,
That's what I was thinking.
and then decided, you know what, I'm going to try it again, and let me
Yeah.
try it on my ex, which it failed. You didn't kill her.
Yeah. Holy shit.
And then I thought, who in their right mind, because you're going to plead not guilty, is going to look at a police officer arresting you and say who snitched? So you
I
did
know.
it.
So dumb.
Yeah. I'm just like absolutely amazed. Like you
Yeah.
act,
That's just so dumb of you.
yeah.
Yes.
So,
Yeah. I also have a snitch on here. So he's a paroled murderer. His name is Brent Koster. Like I said, I saw him through that TikTok, and I sent it to you. Like, I have to look this up, and I'm glad I did. So he was 14 years old in 1972 when he ran away from home in Kalamazoo, Michigan. And his mother suffered from schizophrenia, and his father was a neglectful alcoholic. So Brent met Danny Rains, who was a 28-year-old divorcee at the time, through his friends, through his mom. So his mom's friend was dating him, and that's how he meets him, right?
okay.
Okay, so Danny grows up. Danny also grew up in an unstable home. His dad was really violent and made him and his brother fight other people. And in our next episode, I'm going to talk about Danny and Larry Rains, who is Danny's brother. They're both serial killers. Danny kills more people than I mentioned in this episode, and I'm going to mention it in the next one. So in the next episode, I'm going to talk about the other people that Danny kills, and then I'm going to talk about the people that Larry killed.
Whoa.
But this one we're going to focus on who Brent and Danny killed together. Okay.
Okay.
The 14-year-old and the 28-year-old. So Brent and Danny, they meet. So Danny's in jail all the way to like February of 1972. Brent and Danny meet about May, June of 1972. And by July 6th, there were two teen girls, Linda Clark and Claudia Bishop. They were both 19 years old. They pull into a gas station where Danny worked. It's around 1 a.m. And while Brent filled the tank, Danny told him, pop the hood. I'll look underneath like they used to do back in the day. And instead, what he did was loosened up a spark plug wire. So the car's engine starts to run a little bit poorly. And he tells them, hey, pull into the auto bay here in the gas station. I'll check it out. So once in the building, Danny assaults the two girls. He pulls a knife and tells them that he won't hurt them if they stay quiet. And he made them get in the car and he drove them around to the back of the station where no one could see them. And one of the males would stay with the girls while the other one would still assist customers until their gas station shift was over. So Brent saw, I know that is one part I really like. I'm like, you are so fucking evil that one of you is still helping people while the other one, is actively torturing two young women. Yes. So Brent saw Danny rape Linda and he told Brent that he had also raped Claudia. So then Brent rapes Linda. And Danny told Brent that it was time to, quote, taste the medicine. And Brent tries to kill Claudia by strangling her with a rope. But Claudia was struggling so hard that, against Brent, that Danny had to help murder her. And then Brent kills Linda by himself. So Brent has killed 2 women. Twice his hands were on them. Twice they die, right? Brent and Danny, they put the bodies of Linda and Claudia into the backseat of their car. And Brent then drove the car to Galesburg, Michigan, and he puts a gas-soaked blanket over them in the back there before throwing a lit cigarette into the car floor. He doesn't stay to see if it's lit, and he hitchhikes back home. So exactly a month later, on August 6th, Brent and Danny saw Pamela Fearnow. She was an 18-year-old student at Western Michigan University. She's hitchhiking. She was picked up, and then she was threatened with a knife by the 2 men. They take her to one wooded area where they tie her up and they cover up with a sleeping bag in the back of the van. They both rape her. They tie her up again. They take her to a second wooded area. Both the men, they drink beer. They give Pamela a glass of wine. Then the 2 men take Pamela to a third wooded area where she begins to struggle against them inside the van. Danny punched her in the stomach, but she kept yelling. So Brent puts a plastic bag over her head, suffocating her. And he secures the bag. Yeah, and he secures the bag with a rope around her neck. So this is the 3rd time Brent has raped a woman and suffocated her with the rope around the neck, right? He chokes her out. He kills them. This is the 14-year-old. They pull Pamela's body out of the van and they leave her. Now, at this point, Danny sees a police cruiser, which causes Brent to run away. And Danny pulls far enough away from Pamela that he doesn't seem suspicious. Nobody sees the body. And after checking his ID, the officer lets him go. So Brent and Danny, can you believe that? How close they were? Yeah. So Brent and Danny, they come back the next day to move Pamela's body to a more secluded area. And Brent saw that there was a second rope that had been tied around Pamela's neck. And so he guesses that maybe Danny had done it to her after he murdered her with the first rope. So the 2 were arrested, actually, just under a month later on September 4th. They were suspects in the double homicide of Linda Clark and Claudia Bishop after their car was found. Because remember, he didn't check to see if it caught on fire. Yeah. And the police began to check around to different service stations because they noticed the girls have a full tank. So they start to check around. And they find Danny has a record with another abduction on it. And also he has a charge on there. He threatened a couple with a gun. So they knew that this dude could possibly, be violent. They find out that he's been hanging out with this 14-year-old kid named Brent. They start to question Brent because they know also that the 2 of them have been seen at the gas station together. And once Brent is questioned, he gives all the details of every rape and murder when he's offered a deal. So they offer him a deal that will allow him to have parole in the future. So in Michigan, when you're convinced, you can be convinced, but you need to be convicted. When you're convicted of first-degree murder, you're sentenced to forever jail. You never get out. Brent was charged with 1 single fucking count of second-degree homicide and found guilty. He is the guy that raped the women. He is the guy that physically had his hands on every woman to kill them. And he gets 1 count of second-degree homicide, and he's found guilty. So despite being in jail since September of that year, Brent actually doesn't cooperate and tell the detectives where Pamela's body is until like mid-October. And she had been reported missing, but they had to be able to find her. And at this point, she was so decomposed, they had to identify her through dental records. Now, Brent Koster, who is 64 years old, is now out on parole. He was released January 21st, 2021. And they did have him register as a sex offender despite not being convicted as one. And the victim's surviving family are absolutely outraged at the parole decision because let me tell you why. I too feel a little bit pissed off. If you, in all his things, like the lady for the parole board said, oh, he's very intelligent and he helps people and he's been working as a paralegal and we feel like he's really turned himself around. But that motherfucker, when they asked him about it, he kept saying, I wouldn't have done it if I wasn't with Danny. I was basically, it was my environment and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, but you raped those women and you have to want to rape them in order for that to work. and you
Right.
physically strangled them to death. And it takes a long fucking time to strangle someone to death. We talked about this before. You don't just hold someone by the neck for 5 seconds and they die. That's not how strangling works. So like you literally strangled 3 people to death. You raped them. You kidnapped them. You took them, against their will. And you motherfucking, and you keep saying it was just because of like the influence of the people around you. I fucking hate that.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's 64 too, so he's out. He's out for a minute. So next week I'll tell you about the other people that Danny killed, and then I'll tell you about who his brother Larry killed. Murders, not together though, separately.
I think it's interesting. We've done other cases where these murderers, they'll do things like they did. They're
Mhm.
going to take the time to soak a blanket.
Yeah,
They're going to cover up. They're going to light it on fire, but they don't wait to see.
right? Like they
Like,
half-ass it.
yeah, it's always something,
And I have to give it to the fucking cops in 1972. They're like, okay, they have we found the car, it's full tank of gas. They must have got gas somewhere. Let's start checking local gas stations, see who might be good for it. And I was like, holy shit, that actually worked. And when I tell you about his brother Larry getting caught, Danny's brother, same thing. The cops were like, okay, they fucking used math to find his ass. All right.
Oh, I can't wait.
Yes, I can't wait to tell you. All right, I'll talk to you later, Jen.
All right, bye.
Bye.